All right, that's good.
Thank you so much about. I'm basically going to just sit back and take some notes, and I'd like for Pace and Jenny to take over and answer all your questions.
Thank you so much for that, Mark.
All right, so just kind of lay some groundwork down. This was a three-way call that was done. Those are really, really good. I do a lot of three-way calls. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging because somebody has to call somebody else and a call drops or whatever like that. So typically, and I know Pace does this. He'll record the call for the other person in the event they can't make the call or something like that, which is really, really good. Like if you're working with somebody, you're JVing with somebody, the whole point of doing it is if you don't know how to, is to be able to learn, right? So have them record the call for you so you can be able to listen to it and kind of hear back like how they did it so you can kind of start practicing on your own as well. Now, you don't have to if you don't want to learn how to do it. You're cool, or learn how to do it, but you don't have time. But at least you learned the skill. Learn how to fish. Don't just get fish handouts. Yeah. All right.
Mark, I appreciate that. Sean, this is Pace. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about our business model so you can kind of understand where we're always trying to drive the boat. We acquire multiple different types of assets across the country. We do single family, we do multifamily, and we just bought a motel this morning, all by utilizing seller finance. So
Okay, so what is Pace doing right here? He is laying down, this is what I call laying down the foundation, right? He's cleaned the slate. There's a lot of different people involved. There's the person who wholesaled the deal, there's the agent involved, and then there's the seller. So he's like, all right, let me clean the slate. Let me let this person know exactly who I am, what I do, how good I am in doing that. And he's essentially, by cleaning the slate, you're starting to establish the first level of credibility. So that way, this person kind of has a good understanding that you know what you're talking about, type of thing, right? If not, they're just like, well, what makes you any different from the last two bozos I spoke to, right? And that's probably what the seller is saying, right? Because they're talking to so many people, they're like, hey, you guys are all the same. Well, no, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how long I've been doing it, and I know how to do it. So there you go. Now let's talk.
we go to sellers typically that are wanting a very specific purchase price. I think in your situation, you're looking for 1.8 million. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we go to a seller and we say, hey, we're happy to go up to that purchase price, as long as we can work out some sort of term, some sort of arrangement that works for both parties. And that is how we bought our last 800 assets, was all through seller finance or creative finance, to be a little bit more specific.
All right, there you go. So the slate has now been set. So now let's see what kind of feedback do we get. See, the game of when people want to talk about negotiating. Negotiating has, believe it or not, more to do with human psychology than anything else, right? So I look at it like a game of ping pong, right? So we did that. We just hit the first set, send it over. Let's see how they respond. Depending on how they respond, are they going to hit it slow back? Are they going to hit it fast back? Is going to depict on where you should go. And Pace being a master at this stage of his game, you'll see exactly what I mean by that in a second. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And so your property, what we typically will do once we purchase these properties and become the owner.
I think I actually missed it. Did you hear the guy response? He was just like, okay. Just like I just told you, we brought like 800 of these things, being creative and etc. His response was just, okay. Now, am I expecting him to be like, oh my gosh? Like, he probably doesn't even know what the hell Pace just said, right? But look how fast Pace understood that, all right, this guy didn't do anything, right? I didn't get any type of real response. So now let me bring it in closer so I can make him understand how this is going to benefit him. So at the end of the day, whether you're an investor or an agent or a connector, whatever it is you are, people are only truly concerned about how it benefits them, how they win from that.
Owners of them, is we will do a variety of different things depending on the house or the asset itself. Obviously, if we buy a motel like we just did in Virginia, we're going to turn that into a motel. It was already built for that. If it is a multifamily asset, like we're buying one in Vegas right now, right off the strip, 300 unit, $60 million acquisition, seller finance. that's going to stay a multifamily apartment complex.
So I want to add something here. This is really important. And if you guys don't have stories like this, like you haven't done enough deals, so you don't have examples like this you can give, well, this is why, again, partnering with somebody, JVing with someone, you can borrow their story, right? You have no idea how many people tell my story, my deals. It's one of the reasons why we tell about our deals. We don't just say, hey, this is how much money we made. I tell you the story behind it. So you can leverage that. And when you're talking to someone, you can say, hey, I have a business partner. His name is Eddy. This is the type of deal that we just did. And you're my partner. So you might not have gotten paid from it on that particular one, but us working together in the future is going to allow you to be able to do so.
But when it gets into like,
actually, there's also one more thing I want to say. So when it gets to you painting this picture, you got to make sure you're painting the picture again, funneling down the story so it relates to the seller, and that you're talking about what's going to make sense for the seller. So why isn't Pace talking about all of the single family home deals that he did? Because that's not the same thing. The guy's selling a larger asset. And so it more so because of price range as well, more importantly, I should say, it compares to buying a motel for $3 million or buying this other piece of land for a large amounts of money. Make sure your story is connecting, because what you want them to do is to drive the to be more familiar with, like, oh, okay, there's a lot of similarities here, right, between what you've done in the past, what you're currently doing, and what I currently have, which makes a lot more sense into maybe this is what I'm trying to get the seller to start thinking. Maybe they might have a solution what can work for me too. Because if it worked for other people, then maybe it can work for me. This is the work that we're doing by telling the story, by laying the foundations. This is what we're doing in the mind of the seller, which is way better than trying to negotiate or try to study this is the exact line you want to say next. Like that shit listen, it's cool. It works. But if you really want to be at like a high level, you got to get away from like the objection lines and this, that, and third, and start to get more into the psychology of a seller, the psychology of the person that you're talking to in terms of what they're looking for, what they need, what they want, and supplying them with that, right?
like the single family residences, it could be sometimes a rental, but at this purchase price, a rental is a little bit more challenging for us to cash flow. So typically what we'll do is we'll do corporate rentals with like the airlines. So we'll take the property, take control of it through owning it. And then we'll go work with the airlines to have pilots and stewardesses and people of that type stay in the property so that we can actually cash flow. So we're interested in the property. We would be open to buying the property for 1.8 million. But again, our main purchase strategy is always through some sort of seller finance.
Yeah, well, that's not what Mark said yesterday.
Oh, okay. What did Mark allude to?
He didn't allude. He said that you guys can do an all cash offer for 1.8, or there's a seller finance option at a higher purchase price. So that's why
that might be okay with Jenny. Jenny might be interested in the 1.8 all cash, but when we do seller finance terms, we do. I'm the guy that comes in and does the seller finance stuff as part of the partnership.
Okay, so what you're going to see here is Pace is literally going to break down this call so that he can establish a difference between what they might have been talking about before and what we're talking about right now, right? Now, the real key I want you guys to understand, the sellers are already telling us what's going on. They want money, right? And there's two reasons why people would do seller property on creative terms. It's either going to be for pain, they're in some sort of pain situation, or it's going to be for gain. This seller, and I'll do another video about that, but right now, this seller is in it for gain, right? They want to make money and they want to get paid what they feel the value of the property is worth, which is understandable. Every person should do that, right? And so this is what you're hearing right now.
So if you do a seller finance term, and that's something that you would be interested in, then let's talk about a purchase price that would make that enticing for you.
Okay, well, let's just rewind for a second back to what I just said.
Of course.
Mark said that you guys are, because we weren't even looking to sell the house, number one.
Okay.
Okay. Mark, months ago, somehow, I don't know how he contacted me, but I think you contacted me about you had some sort of a buyer, and I just said, we're not looking to sell, and then you're like, what number would make you interested in selling? We said 1.8 at that time. That was months ago, before interest rates went through the roof, right? So right now we're really not even looking to sell, because what are we going to get after we sell our house?
Yeah. What are you going to replace it with, right?
Yeah. What are we going to get when the interest rates are over 5% right now?
Yeah.
And we bought at a much lower interest rate in 2009. So when he called back, he basically let us know that, he's got somebody that's willing to pay 1.8 million cash. So that's why, and then he said, there's an option to get a higher purchase price. If you want to get a higher purchase price, then there's the option of that with seller financing. So it was a call to go over both those options.
Now, I want to kind of point something out. Let the seller speak, and you hear that's what Pace is doing, right? This guy has something he wants to get off his chest. Let them speak. Let them say their part. You have to make sure that they feel heard, or it doesn't matter what magic or voodoo you got. You're not closing that deal. They got to feel heard. Period.
So that's my understanding. So.
Yeah. That's still the thing. So the reason Jenny and I partner on some assets across the country, but not everything. Jenny is more of a cash buyer. I'm more of the seller finance buyer. So the reason Jenny's on the phone is because the 1.8 million is still in play for you on a cash transaction. I'm the person that comes in, and if there's a seller finance opportunity, I come in with the down payment, and we structure a seller finance at a higher purchase price.
Okay. So how do you do a seller finance anyway? Let's say just throwing out a number.
Okay, so back to seller psychology. If you guys recall, what was it that the seller said, right? He said, I'm not interested in selling. We wasn't even interested. It's been months later, and not only have they had the conversation about selling cash, he's very not interested now in understanding more on what it would be like to sell on seller finance, only because Pace did an amazing job by recognizing what this seller really wants. He said, we're willing to pay more if we can work out the terms on a seller finance deal, thus making the seller prompt to say, well, how does the seller finance deal work if we were to sell on there? Because they want more. This is the key. Like, I honestly could shut this whole thing down after this. Finding out what the seller wants, or allowing the seller to articulate what they truly want, is key. Now, just because they said they want money doesn't mean that's the all kit and caboodle, but it does go a long way in being able to negotiate if you know ultimately what they want. And then I think level 3 is understanding why they want what they want, right? So yeah, I want to sell my house because I want money. Okay, but why do you want the money, right? And then when? Like, do you need it now, or do you need it in like 10 years? Because if you don't need it now, then we definitely don't need to be talking about, how much do we need to put down or anything like that. We can just set that up to be paid out to you over time.
Let's say the purchase price was $2 million. How does it work?
So you essentially become the bank, right? Do you have an existing debt on this property?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you owe on your debt right now?
$600K.
Okay. So you own $600K. So, we bought one for $3 million about a year ago. So this will be a really good example. So $3 million purchase, the seller had $1.2 million of an underlying debt to a bank called Zions Bank. Okay. Which left $1.8 million in equity with that seller, right?
Yeah.
So the seller was moving to Puerto Rico, didn't want to pay the taxes of that event. So he moved to Puerto Rico, and he said, hey, man, if I sell this through a real estate agent, I'm going to sell it for $3 million. And then I'm going to pay, $400,000 in commissions at this price point. And then my buyer at that point is also going to need an appraisal and a loan and a this and a that.
Now, what is Pace doing right here? He is setting up a story, right? He's giving details. This sounds like a Disney film. Like you can almost paint the picture, and he does a good job because you're not hearing him talk about you're not hearing him mention things that aren't important to the story, right? He's right now he's talking about the seller that was in this predicament and how the seller was feeling. These are emotional things. These are things that people can identify themselves in or with, which is why he's telling the story so that he can draw more correlation between that person who we previously helped out and was successful and you who are currently in a very similar situation, that if we work things out the right way, we can also have the same end result, which is a happy ending, right?
So that seller said, if you buy this property from me at $3 million and you give me 10% down, so $300,000, I will not only let you take over the $1.2 million of payments. He has a $5,500 payment on that house. I will also seller finance my remaining equity at $1.5 million to you. And so we make two payments. We make a payment to his underlying debt at Zion's Bank. We just took over that loan. And then we make a monthly payment to him towards his equity. And when that seller says, well, how do you propose to set up that equity payment? I said, well, you're the bank. I don't walk into the bank and demand something. If I go to Chase, I go, what kind of loan programs are you guys, promoting right now?
This is so good. Golly. So if you're paying attention, what Pace is doing right now, he just broke down exactly how this deal would work by using a past deal as an example. If you didn't do the past deal, you can still do the same thing by using this story, or another story. If you're in sub two, you can use this story because you've partnered with Pace. If you're not in sub two, use a story of someone that you're JVing partnering with. If you need stories, call me, hit me up on my link. Let's talk. I'll tell you about the last couple of deals that I've done. And now you have stories that you can say, my partner has just done a deal just like this.
Now, so it'd be the same thing with you, Sham, is I would say if you're interested in selling something, let's say hypothetically at $2 million, you have to tell us, because you're our bank and I'm essentially applying for credit with you. What are you looking for in a down payment? And based on that equity that you have in that deal, what would that payment look like towards that equity is something that really comes from the seller, because the seller in this situation turns into the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, what happens if you guys default?
Whoa. Did y'all hear that? There was somebody in the background. At least I think there was somebody in the back. How much you want to bet that that's probably like his wife or his girlfriend or like a mom or something? There's definitely another decision maker that maybe even be maybe not the most important decision maker, but definitely nothing's going down until they give the head nod. I promise you, this got to be
Well,
it.
we put something in our agreement that is called a performance deed. So if we don't perform, you guys keep our down payment, you keep all of our payments along the way, and you don't have to foreclose on us. The deed just immediately goes back into your guys' name after 31 days of no payments.
Yeah, I mean, Mark also said,